Hi guys, in this video I want to talk about capos, just like an introduction to capo, or an Italian capo. Um, the translation directly means the head or head, from Italian, and what we're doing is essentially moving the nut, or where the head of the guitar is, around the fretboard. So I think that's where that translation comes from. It doesn't have a literal meaning, more of a figurative moving of the end of the guitar where the nut is to any position you want. It also is acting like a bar across the fretboard. And if you're having trouble barring, you can remember that your index finger must act like a capo or capo. We say capo here in the States. And your finger must be very flat when you're trying to bar across the fretboard. So we are essentially going to bar off a new nut on the guitar. It's worth noting here too that when you're looking at a score, a few things to remind you of: a circled number usually means string, an uncircled number, left hand fingers. A Roman numeral is often position, and you'll see a C or a B, or even the word barre, or even the word capo. Usually it's a C or a B in a score, and it means that's where you're barring without a capo. So if you're looking at a score that's capoed, it'll generally say capoed third fret, capoed second fret, capoed first fret, capoed seventh fret. Like Here Comes the Sun in the Beatles is from the Beatles is capoed way up the fretboard. And that completely changes the sound of the guitar too. It gives it a sort of mandolin quality when you capo way up and shorten the string length, which is very common. A couple other things to think about are when you see tablature for a capoed piece, it's acting as if the capo was or is the open strings. So if you are barred at the second fret and it says 0, you're capoed at the second fret and it says 0, that's basically an open string at the capo. And you may see, again, second fret would be second fret above the capo. Same idea applies to chords when they're pictured, when you get a chord tablature or a picture of a chord above the score. So say the score says capoed at the second fret, you're going to put the capo on the second fret, and then the first symbol says D, or a D-shaped chord. You would literally play what you know as a D 2 frets above the capo, just like you'd play a D chord 2 frets above the open string. And I'll demonstrate that in just a second. So a couple of the most basic type of capos you see. There are others. There are some with elastic bands that go around the back of the guitar. But this is a Chrysler or Chrysler capo. Chrysler, K-Y-S-E-R, Chrysler. And this is a shub. And you can see that this one has a fixed spring. It works great. It's very easy to use on the fly and move up and down. Only thing is you can't control the string tension, so sometimes it'll pull the strings a little bit more sharp than you may want. And this capo, you can control the string tension, and once the guitar neck is put in between the rubber pad and the back of the neck holder here, you have sort of a clutch working that holds the capo in place, and you can control exactly how much spring tension you want. General rule is you're probably going to have to retune. If you were doing a gig by yourself and you're doing sort of singing and playing, and you're not playing with other instruments, you could probably get away with putting the capo on, as I'll demonstrate in a moment here, without having to retune. But if you're recording something or you're playing with other instruments, I would highly suggest retuning immediately once you get the capo on. Another thing to think about is make sure you get a capo that is good for your particular instrument. For example, this is a steel string capo and this is a nylon string capo. And you can see the nylon string is quite a bit, if I match them up together here, is quite a bit longer than the steel string capo. You could certainly use the nylon string capo on a steel string guitar because you have a little bit of extra room. So if you want a capo for both guitars, both types of guitars. An electric guitar, this would work fine. But if you are not playing nylon string, the shorter rubber pad works. So again, you know, these are some options. And that rubber pad, you want to put it close to the fret wire, just like if you're fingering your guitar. One suggestion players have is they push down on the strings when they put the tension on the capo. That works a little better when you have a spring capo because you can just do it with one hand. And by pushing on the strings, you're actually pulling the tension this way before you capo on the guitar. You can also, again, make sure you're close to the fret wire. And I generally move my capo back a little bit on the bass strings. Not too much, but a little bit. It helps not make them go so sharp. So again, when I put that mechanism on there, it locks itself down and works to give me a brand new open string set. So again, if I moved it up to the 5th fret, you can hear the sound of the guitar starts to change. So it's not only for changing key, you can use this in a compositional sense or a recording or orchestration kind of sense when you're layering guitars or working in a band when you have somebody playing open position chords or maybe a certain fingering that you want to double up higher with a different type of sound. You could certainly do that. And they work great on electric guitar. And of course, you see a lot of people who are singing and accompanying themselves using these because they can change key easily. So let's just touch on how that works. If you remember our discussions, we emphasize a lot of attention to where the root is in a chord. So if I look at some 6-string chords, I have the root for the G chord on the 6th string, the root for the E chord on the 6th string. Of course, that's true of E minor and E7. On the 5th string, I have a C chord and C7, also D7, which that 5th string root is still there. All of the A chords, 5th string root, A minor, A7, D chord, D minor, open D string. So that's going to be an open capo note when I play closed position. And D7, and of course an F chord, which already has the fretted note down. So the bar chords are already as if they were capoed. So let's say I had a song, well, let's even be a little clearer. Let's say a great idea would be to practice 1, 4, 5 chord progressions in open position and then with a capo. So let's do a few of those and I'll demonstrate. So for the key of G, G, C, and D would be the 1, 4, and 5. G, C, and D. Bass note on the 6th string, 5th string, and open string, 4th string. So if I capoed up a half a step, which would be at the 1st fret, I would now play those chords in relation to the capo. If I didn't, if I played the G chord in the same spot, it would not sound very nice at all. There's my new G chord, but now it's a G sharp or an A flat, probably more commonly called an A flat. But since I've practiced the 1, 4, 5, I'm comfortable playing those 3 chords together. Doesn't really matter if I change to a new key, it still feels like G, C, and D. It's A flat, D flat, and E flat. Well, how did I know that? Well, I looked at the 6th string. I'm calling that A flat, D flat, and E flat. They could all be called sharp chords too. G sharp, C sharp, D sharp. And again, singers are kind of particular about what keys they want to sing in sometimes, including yourself, if you're trying to match up your key on the guitar to your singing voice. So it wouldn't be unusual to try and search around and find the right key for the song. Now I'm playing the same three chord shapes, G, C, and D, but now I have A, D chord, and an E chord. So again, if I practice those three chord shapes together, I feel comfortable playing them anywhere on the fretboard. So if I change to a key like E, and I played an E chord, 4 chord is A, 5 chord is B7, it applies the exact same way. So let's say I capoed up at the, let's make it the 2nd fret here. This would be a little bit more of a non-guitaristic key. F sharp major, and again, if you get a little rattle, you might have to adjust or add a little tension. F sharp major, B major, C sharp 7. If I demonstrate another key or two, we've got, let's say, an A, D, and E. So if I do that, let's try it higher up the neck, maybe at the 4th fret. The A chord, I'm looking at the bass note, 5th string root at the 4th fret. We could call that a D flat. G flat, and A flat. So again, it's a great idea to practice 1, 4, 5 in that open position to begin with, so you start to get used to playing keys, most primary chords together, and then putting the capo on becomes a little less of a struggle. I did mention in the syllabus Wabash Cannonball, and in the original key it would sound something like this if I did the alternating bass. So remember, with the alternating bass, I'm playing root 5th, root 5th, root 5th. So again, I wouldn't really have to think too hard about putting the capo on and playing those exact same chord shapes and that exact same pattern on the fretboard. So for example, I would have now, instead of D, G, and A7, the primary chords, I'd have an E chord, B7, and I could use those same alternating patterns. So I changed the key up a whole step from D to the key of E. So get yourself a capo, give it a try, and again, start with those primary chords first, and it will be easy to start to move that up the fretboard and change keys. Have a great day.